Hi, I'm Cheryl Belson with American Sewing Guild, and today I am thrilled to introduce you to another online sewing personality, Anita Morris of Anita by Design. And if I knew absolutely nothing about Anita other than seeing her face online, I would know that she glows from within and has an incredibly infectious smile. Look, she's showing it to us right now. I love it. You know, it's impossible for me to see you on Instagram or on your blog and not want to just smile right back at you. And so that is among my favorite things, one of my favorite things about you. Anita has a passion for garment sewing, and in particular, she has a passion for teaching people who are new to sewing how to get the basics of sewing under their belt. And she does that through her online beginner sewing class, her blog articles, her YouTube videos, and she regularly inspires her over 16,000 Instagram followers by sharing her makes. And frequently, she sports one of her favorite hats while she's showing off those favorite makes. Let me not leave out that she's an ambassador for Baby Lock. Anita, I cannot tell you how happy I am to spend this time with you today. Thank you so much for joining me, and welcome to this episode of American Sewing Guild's Fireside Chat.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I am so honored to be your guest here today. When you reached out to me, I thought, oh my goodness, what an honor to go onto the American Sewing Guild. Oh my gosh. Okay, so yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here.
Well, welcome. So I love starting out with hearing the beginning of people's stories. And I understand that in the beginning, when you started out, you had very much an on-again, off-again relationship with sewing that dates all the way back to your 8th grade home ec class. And apparently that class did not spark a passion for sewing. So I am very interested to hear how you went from disinterest in sewing back in the 80s to the passion you have for sewing today.
Yes, I was introduced to the sewing machine in my 8th grade home economics class. It was part of our curriculum. Everybody had to do it, and it was amazing. It's really too bad they don't have that anymore. But I took the sewing class, and we sewed, if I remember correctly, I know we sewed a pillow, and we sewed a pair of shorts. Can you believe that? In 8th grade, we sewed a pair of shorts, and it was fun. I really enjoyed the process, learning how to use the machine and everything. But after that class, I didn't take any further interest in it. It wasn't until my early 20s, maybe mid 20s, that I became interested again. I had a girlfriend. My best friend Tina had a friend Renee, and I became friends with Renee. And Renee sewed all of her own clothes. And this girl looked sharp wherever we went. Her clothes fit perfectly, and it was just amazing. So I really admired her for that. Well, one day she allowed me and my best friend Tina to wear two of her dresses, or they may have been Tina's dresses, but anyway, I got to wear one of these custom design dresses. And oh my goodness, the way it fit my body just blew my mind. I had never worn anything custom before. So having that garment fit the curves of my body just felt amazing. And I thought to myself, I need to learn how to sew. And I determined from that moment I was going to find someone to teach me to sew. Renee couldn't do it at the time. She didn't teach. She had a business where she sewed for other people, so she didn't have time to teach others to sew. So I found a sewing studio in LA, a lady who had her own little private studio, and she taught me the basics. She taught me how to read a pattern, how to use she refreshed my memory on how to use the sewing machine and how to cut out fabric. And I actually made a garment in her course. I think I took maybe 4 or 5 classes with her, and I made a skirt. And the one thing that really blew my mind was I had never heard of a serger, and I used a serger in the very first class. And it was amazing. So I learned the basics from her. And after that, I purchased every sewing book I could find. I went to the library to get sewing books to help teach me everything that I needed to learn in order to improve my skills in sewing. And that's where it started.
Wow. That's what a fun switch. It's like, it's interesting to hear that what it took to really begin that spark was knowing someone else who sewed and experiencing something that they had made and going, what? I could do this too?
I know, it was amazing. And then the other exciting thing was that my instructor, her name is Regina. I've lost touch with her. I never even saw her anymore after I took her class. But every time we would go to class, she would be wearing something she made. So that just encouraged me all the more. And her clothes were just flawless. And she would show us the seams on the inside. And I was just amazed. And she taught us how to create garments that way. And I was just excited beyond anything.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about an American Sewing Guild meeting, especially when we can be in person again, is we almost always have something called show and tell. And so people will bring things that, oh, I finished this or I finished that. And even as an advanced person in sewing skills, there'll be something that I'll go, oh, that's a great idea. I hadn't thought about that before. So yeah, that inspiration is a lot. Says a lot.
It really is.
Yeah. So you say on your website that you have a special place in your heart for beginners. I suspect it harkens back to the story that you just told us, but your comment is that learning to sew can be a little overwhelming. So tell us a little bit more about how that part of your online personality and sewing journey came to be.
Well, when I first learned to sew, I quickly realized how much is involved with the process of learning. There are so many different parts, so many pieces and elements that you have to bring together to create one single garment. So when I decided I was going to start the blog and then the YouTube channel for the purpose of teaching people what I know, even though I wasn't an advanced seamstress. I mean, even now I consider myself an intermediate sewist, but for that time, I just wanted to share what I knew. And I wanted to present it in a way that would be very plain and simple for someone who had never sewn anything before. I wanted to make sure that I took them from beginning to end, outlining every single detail so that they could actually see how it's done. What I have seen in my search on YouTube, because, well, when I learned, there was no YouTube. That's why it was all books, purchasing books and going to the library. But now in this age of the internet with YouTube, when you go on, you find videos, and some are very descriptive and walking you through the process from beginning to end to learn a new technique. And then there are those who speed through and then they skip some steps. So when I started, I wanted to present it in a way and make no assumption that they knew anything. I wanted to present it in a way that they were a true beginner, never touched the sewing machine before. So I made sure I taught them how to read a pattern from beginning to end, how to cut the fabric or how to lay out the fabric, how to place the pieces on top in very great detail. So when I talk about having a heart for beginners, I understand the frustration that comes when you want to learn something and then there are missing steps along the way. So I want to make sure that I present it in a very, very full of details. I want to present it with a lot of details so that they don't miss anything. Did that answer your question?
It did. And, it's funny because I love to teach workshops at the local level here in Plano. And I found almost every time I teach a workshop, I've taught one on making your own swimsuit and making your own active wear pants and some things like that. And I'll start talking and somebody will raise their hand and go, I don't understand that. And I'll be like, remember, you've got to start from the beginning, because you're teaching somebody something for the first time. So I really applaud you for the work that you do to try to remind yourself of that and come in at that level for them. It's great. It helps people so much.
Yeah. And slowing it down, because, for us, when we know what we're doing, it's so easy to go so fast and speed it up because you know this. But then, like you said, you have to back it up and slow it down and remember that you're teaching this to someone who doesn't have the information that you have.
Right. All right. So, Anita, one of the things I read about is your approach to starting a new sewing project, and it really intrigues me. I understand that you start by taking an uncut piece of fabric to your closet and audition it with your closet before you even cut anything out. Can you tell me how you came up with this idea and how it actually works?
Yes, absolutely. I always style my garments before I make them. After I choose which pattern I'm going to sew, I'll get the fabric, and then I take that fabric into my closet and I'll put it next to shoes. I'll go around the closet and see which pair of shoes is going to look best with that dress or whatever I'm making. Then I'll go over to my jewelry and I'll just take pieces and see how it will look with the fabric and with the garment. And I'll get my handbags and go through and see which one is going to look best. And then what I've done in the past is I'll take the fabric and put it on my cutting table. I'll move the mats because I want a white background. I'll put the fabric on the cutting table and I'll take all the accessories and put them around with the fabric to see what it's going to look like. Now I have a dress form. So I'll take the fabric and I wrap the fabric around the dress form, and then I'll take the accessories. I'll put the necklace on her. I can't put the earrings on, but I'll put the necklace on her. I'll take the handbag and put it next to her. I take the pair of shoes and put them down at the bottom, and my hat. If I'm wearing a hat, because I love hats, I'll put the hat on top of the dress form. And then sometimes I squeal like, ooh, because I know it's gonna be so cute. If I don't squeal, I'll keep trying, but I'm looking for the squeal. If I squeal, then I know I've got it. So, and you know what? I started that when I came back to sewing, because after I learned to sew way back in the 90s, after I started raising a family, I got married and had children, I took a long break and I didn't do any sewing for myself until I started back in 2014, I believe. So when I started back sewing, I just started doing that. And I don't know how I thought of it. I just did it. It is so much fun.
I wish that we could have a little video of you, especially the squeal part of the.
And it's so interesting that you say that, because I have recorded some footage, because I'm going to do a YouTube video on how I plan my projects. And I do have some footage already.
Oh, cool. Very cool. Well, I look forward to seeing that. So
yeah.
Awesome.
I'll have to put the squeal in there, though.
Definitely don't leave out the squeal.
Yes.
So Anita, one of the things I love about you is you just are such a positive person, and you seem to be so positive about almost everything. So I have to wonder, have you ever had the experience of working on a project and having to just say, you know what, Uncle, this is going in the trash. This is a water. I'm done. Can you tell us, if you've had an experience like that, can you tell us what was that tipping point that pushed you over that edge and made you say, this is not a design opportunity, this is a water?
I have said uncle so many times. So many times. I don't like waters. I hate them. It's clutter in my brain. Really, if I don't finish it and it's laying around somewhere, I'm always thinking about it. So I just cannot do it. So over the years, in my mind, my projects always start out fabulous. They're going to turn out just fabulous. And I think we all think that way, right? They're going to be just fabulous. So when it goes in the other direction, my heart is broken, first of all, because I don't always sew muslins. Some people sew muslins for every garment. I just don't. I don't like them at all. I should do them more, but I'm just not disciplined enough. I'm not patient enough. So I've learned some lessons over the years, and I still don't do it. But when a project goes south and it's just not what I want, I I have thrown away many a garment because I'm just done. I'm just done with it. But there have been a few where I will just take a break, put it in the closet. There was one dress in particular. I forget the pattern number, but it had the princess theme. I used a two-sided fabric. It was red on one side, and then it had black and white stripes on the other side. So for the center panel, I used the stripes. And then for the side panels, I used the red. Well, in my mind, it was just fabulous. It was going to turn out fabulous. Well, when I tried it on, I didn't like it. And there was nothing wrong with the structure, or the technique, or what am I trying to say? The way the garment was put together, it fit well, but something about the combination of the fabric just did not speak to me at the time. And I thought, oh, this is ugly. But I didn't throw it away. I put it in the closet, and then I went back to it about a week later, and I put it on, put on my makeup, I did my hair, I put on my shoes, and I was like, oh, this is not so bad.
I love that.
So all it took was me dressing it up a little bit, styling it to get a different perspective, and it was fine. I've had a couple of those incidents, but the majority of the water, well, I wouldn't even call them waters because they don't get to be waters because I throw them away if I really don't like them. There are times when I won't get to the finishing point after I try it on for a fitting, and I'm like, nope, absolutely not. This is not for me, not my style, and I'll just throw it away. Now, although I hate waters and I don't keep them, I have one pair of pants that I've had for many years, and I have no idea why I've held on to them. The only reason I can think of is because the construction is so beautiful on these pants, and I cannot let them go yet. So maybe after this call, I'll go try them on again and see if I can fix them. And I think I may have lost one piece because I didn't get to the finishing, to finish it, but I did try it on, and I wasn't feeling it. So I have one that I've held on to. Other than that, I don't keep them. I throw them away, or I will try them on later and just get a whole new perspective and decide they're beautiful.
Yeah. I really think I've only had maybe one that I literally just threw away because I'm like, I can't stand the idea of a water, and I don't make muslins either. But I had two that I worked, those garments that you go in your mind, you'll walk in the room and people will gasp.
Yeah.
I have two like that. And one of them was I had this boucle that I unthreaded so that it had only the vertical threads that I hand stitched up a white yoke to look like fronds of something beautiful. And the construction, like I said, was impeccable. And I put it on and I went, hours. And I get,
oh gosh.
And the other one was I learned to make my own beaded trim. I wove with these two little hands, little bitty beads to make trim to go tone on tone around the neck of this dress. And again, people were going to gasp when I walked in the room wearing this. And I laid the trim on before I hand stitched it down and went, this stinks. I'm not even going to I've got to come up with a totally different plan for this dress because I'm not putting all this work on this particular dress. So you know what? We've all had them. All of us have had them.
Yeah, indeed.
That's too funny. That's too funny. Well, all right. So now I want to move to another topic with you because Anita, you just seem, if I'm observing correctly, to be a very relational person. And I suspect that you are very relational in your real life, offline life, just as much as it appears that you are in your online life. And I'm particularly interested in your online relationships. Not too long ago when Mimi G got married, you had built a level of relationship with her that you were at the wedding. So it was more than just a hit the thumbs up or hit the like button kind of relationship. Also observed that you built a relationship with Sarah Gunn and Julie Starr to the point that they included you as one of the people they had in their book. So I'm curious about how you've developed and maintained these online relationships in the sewing community over time.
Well, I really do cherish sisterhood. I love connecting with other women. There's just something about being in community with other women that just feeds my soul. I get a lot of encouragement in watching other women. I learn lots of lessons, and there's growth that happens in me when I pay attention to my sisters, here in our community and in other places. So these friendships that have developed over the internet, starting with Mimi, I became part of her Facebook group, her private Facebook group back in 2015, I believe it was, after I attended one of her sewing conferences. And being a participant in her group and actively posting the things I was making, like, that's what we all did. Then every once in a while, she would reach out, she would comment. And so the relationship started there. It was developed there in her private Facebook group. And then she had reached out to me a couple of times outside of the group. And so it kind of grew from that, meeting her through her group, going to her conference, and then getting to meet with her in person outside of the internet was just really a joy, because I really like what this young lady has built. She has gone through some really tough things in her life and has walked out or come out of that and rebuilt her life and her brand. And it's really admirable to see what she has done. And then the compassion that she has for other people too, it shows, not only in, publicly as she's sharing all of her heart, but privately, she reached out to me during a very difficult time of my life. So the relationship started in her group, and then it's maintained online because I don't get to see her. And now she's moved away from California, so I won't get to see her. But it's just in communicating through the Instagram mostly, liking each other's posts and, sharing. So that's how that has stayed afloat. And then with Julie and Sarah, they actually reached out to me. Our friendship or relationship developed also through Instagram. And it's just liking each other's posts and commenting. So we don't have like a really close relationship. I haven't had a whole lot of interaction with them other than liking and commenting on each other's posts. But they reached out to me to be a part of their gallery in their book, because a few pieces of my classic garments stood out to them and they wanted to include them. So that's where they started. And then I have other people in the sewing community that I have formed relationships with, friendships with, to the point where we talk on the phone outside of the internet. And those are cherished friendships for me. I just love being able to communicate with women on a heart level. And of course, I can't do that with everybody, but there are a few who I cherish, and I am honored to be a part of their lives and have them a part of my lives, even if it's only on the phone.
Yeah, that's nice. And it does open up the introductions, I guess, this online capability. We have the ability to be introduced to someone that otherwise we would not be introduced to because they don't live in proximity with us. So,
right, exactly.
Yeah. Well, speaking of social media, I've often heard it said, and I do think that there's some truth to this, that social media can create an unrealistically positive picture of or a happy persona that isn't necessarily the real full picture, because we share our happy experiences usually. But you shared some really difficult struggles with us in the online community. When your husband was diagnosed with cancer, and when you lost him less than a year after that diagnosis, I can remember watching the video that you posted the day after his passing, and it was raw. It was hard to watch, and I found myself tearfully grieving alongside you. And that definitely is not sharing the happy moments of life, but it was sharing a real moment of life. So can you talk about that journey and about how you were even able to share those hard moments with the online community?
Yes. When my husband was first diagnosed, my heart wanted as many people praying with us as possible because I knew that this was something far beyond my ability to tackle on my own. So I wanted a lot of people praying. So I asked for my husband's permission because he was a very private man. He didn't do social media or do what he called put his business out in the streets. He didn't do any of that. So I asked for his permission to share on my private Facebook page, not with any of the other communities, but I asked him if I could share what was going on so that we could get people praying with us. And he said yes, he gave me permission. So I did. I made the announcement. And then as time went along and we were going through this journey with the ups and downs, I would ask him, can I share this, to let people know what's going on, give updates? And he kept saying yes. So eventually I stopped asking and I would just put the updates out there when something changed. And that was in my private community. And I shortly after that, I did announce it shortly after I got his permission to announce it on my private page. I wanted to announce it to the sewing community too, because I knew that I was going to be totally out of there. I could not focus on sewing while I was caring for my husband. So I put it out there and let people know what was going on and ask for prayer. And so the sewing community started praying as well. So that was my motive of putting it out there initially, was to get as many people praying as possible. And it completely blew my mind with how many people joined us to pray. And people were reaching out to me. Of course, I couldn't respond because I was just in a totally different place. But it helped us so much to know that people cared so much to reach out and to leave comments and to let us know that they were praying. So when my husband passed away, in the meantime, while he was sick, I'm sharing everywhere, the updates, what's going on. So people were able to follow along, not as much in the sewing community as I was on my personal page, but I would share tidbits in the sewing community so people had an idea of what was going on with us. And so when he did pass away, the next day I figured I should tell everybody because so many people were following along and so many people were praying, and I felt like I needed to let everybody know. So I did put it out there, and I just felt so overwhelmed with love from all the people who reached out to me, and to know that people care about you on a deeper level than just sewing and what you have to offer, but to connect with you on a heart level. That blessed my heart more than anything during that time, because it was really difficult, to lose him. And, to know that God was with me and that he sent all of these people to surround me and to love on me. It's just, I will never forget that in my life, how people I don't even know loved on me and prayed. There were people praying that I don't even know about. So I was able to do it because God allowed me to just put my story out there and to receive the love that he wanted to lavish on me from all of the people.
Wow. That is, it's a touching story. It's a testimony to what you're not shy about sharing, is that your deep faith that you have. And just really, it's actually refreshing to see the real person and not just the happy person that our personas can reflect.
Yeah. We all have something at one time or another in our lives that changes us. And this event is that thing that has changed me. I will never be the same. And, I know that whatever God allows into my life has purpose because He's an intentional God. So I had a beautiful life with my husband. I have beautiful memories. My sons and I, we just have beautiful memories, of our time we had with him. And now that he's gone, life continues for us. And as I continue on and move forward, I am in the process of rebuilding my life. God definitely wants me to continue on. My husband would want me to continue on. So in order for me to be healthy and whole on the other side of this grief journey, I have to make sure that I'm taking care of me right now and allowing myself to go through everything that comes with the grief process and just stepping into it, just stepping into everything that comes with it so that I am able to step into His calling for my life at this time. And He is definitely calling me to things that blow my mind. And you guys will find out about all of the things that I'm working on. There are two things I'm working on behind the scenes. And, it just, when I consider the devastation that my heart went through in this journey, I am always stunned at how God can take the most devastating time of your life and use it to encourage other people through sharing your story, and how He can use that to show you more of Him and to show you who you are and who you have always been, and how you have the power to step into who you are. There are times when we work or operate within our capacity as far as what we know we're able to do. But when you go through something like this and you sit in it and realize what you were created for from the beginning, oh my gosh, there is so much that's opened up, when you can sit in it and slow down and just pay attention to the things that are happening around you, and where this journey is taking me is into places where I never imagined I would ever go. So I have learned that tragedies and trials do not come to destroy us. We have a choice, and our choice is we can become bitter over it or we can become better. And I shared recently on my Instagram page that I choose better. I'm choosing to allow this to make me better by stepping into the calling that God has on my life, as a result of this.
That is, I appreciate you sharing that piece of your heart, but you have stepped into the next question a bit. So I'm going to go there. I always love to close these fireside chats with, so Anita, what might we look for to come out of Anita next? What's looming on the horizon? And you just let a little sneak peek out of the bag that said there's some big stuff. Can you tell us anything about that?
Oh, I hate to do this to you.
No, don't do it. Don't hide it.
I hate to do this to you, but I have two separate things that I'm working on. One is non-sewing related, and that is the result of this journey that I have been on. But I'm definitely going to be sharing with you all when the time is right. It's part of my healing process and what has come from that. And I'm going to share later. And then as far as Anita by Design, I have this project that my husband and I were going to start in 2017, but then after he retired, but then everything happened, life happened and things changed. So we didn't get to do that. And then of course, over this time of grieving, I didn't even focus on it at all. But now I'm in the process. I've actually, put pen to paper to plan it out. And I am working behind the scenes. It's a secret, ma'am. But it's something I've wanted to do and something I need to do. So I'm working through the planning process of that. In the meantime, I am learning how to do all of these things. Like my husband was my photographer and my videographer. So I'm in the process of getting better and learning how to use the cameras, how to work the lighting, and I'm getting so much better with that. I'm so proud of myself. I'm learning how to work all this technology. And so I'm working on making everything better and more functional for myself so that this whole process of running the blog and the YouTube channel will be more efficient for me on the back end, because it's a lot of work. So I'm working on just trying to get better and more efficient. And then the surprise will come later. I'm sorry, I can't tell you.
My heart is broken, and now I have to go through a grief process of my own. Maybe I can tap into the resource that you mentioned that's the secret that will help me with this journey of grief. Oh, Anita, I can't tell you how much fun I've had spending this time with you. It's been a true delight. I really, truly, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank you so much for taking time to share a little bit about yourself. And just thank you for being the joyful presence that you are, and inspirational presence that you are for all of us who are watching the online sewing community. So thank you for your time.
You're welcome, and thank you. Yeah, it was a joy. I really had fun talking with you, and I am honored to be your guest today. Thank you for having me.
All right. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.